Hello and welcome to the Stretch Zone. My name's Glenn Vidalco. I'm a Master Executive Coach and Learning Facilitator in talent, teams and leadership, and author of the Stretch Zone. In this post, we'll explore confidence and learned helplessness, exploring the question, when our confidence disappears under pressure, what do we unintentionally learn? Helping us to think about ourselves and about our confidence differently. So, what do we learn unintentionally? As a coach and facilitator, I've been in a privileged position to work with people from all walks of life, exploring what happens to their confidence and potential under pressure. A consistent observation is every time our confidence disappears just when we need it most, what follows is an unintended learning that undermines our confidence from within. Learning in life is not really optional. We are always learning. It's only a question of what we are learning, and is it helpful or unhelpful? And confidence is no different. Whenever our confidence disappears under pressure, we mistakenly learn, confidence is not an option for me. Something that creeps into our system below the radar. And taking it as reality, it becomes our reality, and nothing could be further from the truth. So, how do our stereotypes make this even worse? Life is such that we're not really able to avoid the unavoidable, and sooner or later we have to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and face the difficult situation. And with no other alternatives, we fall back on our stereotypes and cliches, psyching ourselves up in a desperate attempt to manufacture the oomph to face the difficult situation, with a show of manufactured confidence on the outside. And with no substance behind the facade, the pretense quickly becomes hard work. And in spite of our best efforts, every time our confidence fades, we repeatedly learn that confidence is not an option for me, that I just haven't got it. And this is a form of learned helplessness. So, what is justified inadequacy? In the Stretch Zone, I call this justified inadequacy, where our repeated experience justifies and confirms our perceived inadequacy and learned helplessness. And what makes this so debilitating is the perceived proof as evidenced in our repeated experience, which is difficult to ignore, and with no other alternatives, we take it as reality. In the wilderness of submissive conformity, our learned helplessness remains unquestioned, and why should we? No one else does. So, what's the alternative? When we step aside from confidence stereotypes and misconceptions, we realize that all is not as it might seem, and channeling our efforts and energy differently, our natural confidence emerges quietly from within, each in our different ways, and learned helplessness becomes learned helpfulness. That we feel uncomfortable under pressure, that our confidence disappears under pressure, doesn't mean there's something wrong with us, that we lack confidence. It only means we're human. Confidence is a challenge for everyone who has the courage to step outside their comfort zones. So, what is learned helplessness? Psychodynamic methodology teaches that in the face of a threat, we learn different coping mechanisms to deal with the resulting anxiety. So here's a simple example. Facing the threat of too much work, with work overload, we learn to cope with the threat and resulting anxiety by doing long hours and working on the weekends. In this simple example, the learned behavior of long hours is a dysfunctional coping mechanism because it's not really sustainable. Instead, we can learn to prioritize differently. We can learn to say no and to delegate as examples of functional coping mechanisms. So, what's this got to do with confidence and justified inadequacy? Justified inadequacy is no more than a dysfunctional coping mechanism by means of which we make the mistake of learning how to cope with pressure and anxiety in a way that's unhelpful. With justified inadequacy, we learn that we are justified in avoiding our stretch zones because we just haven't got it, as is evidenced by our painful experience. And every time we give ourselves permission to hold ourselves back, the anxiety inevitably goes away, which reinforces our learned helplessness, and we get stuck on repeat. So, in what way is justified inadequacy a self-deception? Our coping mechanisms and justified inadequacy are mostly unintentional and unconscious, where we have little to no awareness of what we're doing to ourselves. Yet inside each one of us is that voice of reason that says, no, this is not true. You have got it. And that inner voice is entirely correct. We only need to connect with ourselves and with our confidence differently. When my clients step into their stretch zones and give it a go, learned helpfulness teaches them I have got it, and I can't becomes I can. And why should you be any different? So, in what way are our comfort zones breeding grounds for justified inadequacy? Every time we withdraw into our comfort zones, avoiding opportunities, the inevitable inner conflict that follows becomes a hotbed for justified inadequacy. And the more we indulge, the more entrenched our learnt helplessness becomes, hardwiring into our systems as behavioral habits. In contrast, whenever we step into our stretch zones, seizing opportunities in spite of the discomfort, we learn that what was not possible is possible, and with learned helpfulness, off we go. So, what's the problem behind the problem? The underlying idea driving justified inadequacy is the conviction that if I hold myself back this time, it'll be different next time. It's a self-deception that justifies justified inadequacy. And whenever the next time catches up with us, nothing has changed, and the pressure and the discomfort are no different, and we get stuck on repeat. So, what can we do differently? As with any coping mechanism, with justified inadequacy, we need to question our ideas and see in ourselves and our confidence differently. Everything changes. Coping mechanisms can be stubborn, and as a conditioned habit, justified inadequacy is likely to resurface again and again. And every time it does, we kick it into touch as no more than smoke and mirrors. And every time we disempower the idea, it loses momentum, losing its power over us. In summary, justified inadequacy is no more than a dysfunctional coping mechanism of learnt helplessness that has a way of entrenching into our system. However, we have a choice. Whenever we drop the idea, letting it go, it loses its power. And as we unlearn learned helplessness, what follows is learned helpfulness. Thank you. I wish you all the best discovering your magic in your stretch zones. Trust yourself, be yourself, and enjoy yourself. Bye now.